don't have to see your face anymore. Freeloader, get out! Haha.
You should be grateful that we tolerated your freeloading, parasitic lifestyle until now.
I see. I understand. I'll leave then. Thank you for everything until now. I quickly packed my belongings and left the house where I had been living with my in-laws. I noticed my mother-in-law looking at me with the happiest face as I was leaving. I left looking all sorrowful, but only I knew about what awaited this house next. My name is Emily. I'm a 32-year-old who works from home. It has been 5 years since I married John. We lived happily as a couple, but around our 4th year of marriage, things started to change. My previously healthy father-in-law suddenly fell ill, and we had to start caring for him. Therefore, we moved in with my in-laws. We thought we wouldn't have to live with them for quite some time, but John was an only child. With no siblings to rely on, we inevitably ended up taking care of my father-in-law. I even considered quitting my job for caregiving. However, perhaps because my hard work was recognized, I was allowed to work from home and continue working. Life in my in-laws' house started off hectically, but problems soon arose. Yes, it was the harassment from my mother-in-law. The common mother-in-law and daughter-in-law problems that you often hear about also fell on me. Emily, how long are you going to slack off and leave the housework alone? Get to tidying and preparing the meal already. Mother-in-law, I'm not goofing around, you know. What are you talking about? You're always clicking away at your computer. Surfing the web, you call it? You must be goofing off. Surfing the web? Haha. The idea that being on a computer equals killing time is so old-minded. I was specially granted permission to work from home. I didn't want to waste the skills I had worked hard to acquire, so I worked hard at my job in between household chores and caregiving to maintain my previous income. And it was gratifying when, after about 3 months of desperate effort, I was able to restore my income. The reason why I had to work so hard was because, frankly, it was difficult to get by on John's income alone. Finally, we're going to have some leeway in our lives. I want to save some money. That's what I thought, but for some reason life became harder. It felt like our savings was only decreasing. I wondered why, and when I checked our expenses, it turned out that John was splurging a lot. And I also found out that my mother-in-law was also splurging quite a bit. John has always been a show-off, and he often treats his colleagues to lunch. But recently, he's been using our credit card to treat many colleagues at parties. Of course, if you spend more than you put in the house, it's bound to decrease. My mother-in-law, for her part, takes up multiple hobbies at the invitation of her friends, and she unhesitatingly uses money for class fees and expenses for socializing. With both my husband and my mother-in-law throwing housework and caregiving duties at me, and splurging as they please, I couldn't take it anymore. As I was covering all the living expenses with my income and couldn't even think about saving, I became anxious and decided to talk to my husband and mother-in-law. Both John and mother-in-law, you seem to be spending a lot of money wastefully lately. We're going to run out of savings at this rate, so could you please hold back a bit on spending? Upon saying this, my husband John and my mother-in-law strongly rebutted.
You think I wouldn't care if my colleagues see me as a stingy man? You want me to get looked down upon?
It's okay if you're not always the one to treat them. Besides, even if you don't show off sometimes, they won't think you're stingy.
I'm always considerate towards the people at my office to make sure we all work well together. You wouldn't understand anything about work.
It's fine to treat your colleagues to lunch, But how does taking your colleagues to a girls' bar on your dime relate to work? Aren't you just doing it because you enjoy it?
How do you know that?
You always come home drunk and happily report it yourself, don't you? That's just how much more fun he has compared to talking with you.
Mom, you get it too, right? That's what I meant, haha.
I too attend my classes to spend my dwindling time having fun with my friends. Are you telling me to stay cooped up at home? You're such a terrible wife.
There's no reason for you, who don't even earn a cent and only do housework, to tell me what to do.
Really, what is she thinking? Acting all high and mighty when she's just a housewife. I do work, and you guys know it. I'm earning and contributing to the household, you know. I'm also taking care of your father, not just doing the housework.
Don't lie. My mom takes care of my dad, and since you're not even going to the office, you're not earning much, are you? Who the hell do you think you are? Getting all cocky just because you work part-time.
Stunned, I was at a loss for words. It seems like this mother-son duo really didn't understand that I was truly working and taking care of the house and father-in-law, all while earning. Moreover, my mother-in-law seemed to have told John that she was the one taking care of my father-in-law, making me look like a lazy housewife. I considered leaving several times, but the reason I refrained was, of course, my father-in-law. My father-in-law has always been very kind to me since I got married to John, and he would always say, "Emily, I'm really sorry that a great daughter-in-law like you has to put up with so much." Father-in-law, I don't mind taking care of you. What are you talking about?
I do feel guilty about needing care, but I feel even worse about how my wife and son are treating you. You're being taken advantage of, aren't you?
Well, yes.
With just John's income, we wouldn't be able to maintain a living. I know that it's all thanks to your hard work that we're getting by.
Father-in-law, you knew? It turned out that my father-in-law had been aware of the household situation for a long time. And every time he needed care, he would thank me and speak to me with a kind voice. I loved my father-in-law, and I didn't find taking care of him a burden at all. What if I left this house? I was anxious about who would take care of my beloved father-in-law, so I decided to take care of him diligently until he passed away. And about a year later, my father-in-law passed away. During the funeral of my father-in-law, whom I loved so much, I cried the whole time. Seeing me, my mother-in-law coldly said, "Emily, why are you crying so much?" Without shedding a tear, my mother-in-law showed no signs of grieving for my father-in-law. So of course I replied, "What? My father-in-law has passed away. Of course I would be sad. I've been taking care of him all this time." Upon hearing my response, my mother-in-law exploded in anger. "Gosh, as if I didn't take care of my husband at all!" In reality, my mother-in-law heartily took care of my father-in-law. She took advantage of me, doing neither housework nor caregiving, and claimed she was too busy with her hobbies. Despite that, she always found the time to go out. She played the part of the poor mother-in-law being bullied by her daughter-in-law, even pretending to cry in front of relatives. From the outside, it seems like I was a terrible daughter-in-law, to the point where people said, "Please stop being so harsh on your mother-in-law." Some even sided with her and blamed me. I was merely grieving the death of my father-in-law, yet even strangers blamed me. It pissed me off. I chose to stay away from our relatives. Then John, having noticed me, approached me to complain.
"So, you embarrassed my mom in front of our relatives, huh?"
"What are you talking about? I don't understand. I was just crying and grieving your dad's death. Then your mom came up to me making snide comments. That's all."
"I heard you were talking as if she did nothing for my dad."
I didn't say such a thing. I was just talking about how sad I was that your dad, who I had been taking care of, passed away. Maybe it sounded like I was blaming your mom because she didn't do anything in reality.
Are you looking down on my mom?
No, I'm just telling the truth. And if you're so upset, you should have helped me out. Don't you think you could have taken better care of your own dad?
Why are you blaming me too? I have nothing to do with this.
Nothing to do with this. You're his own son. Didn't you feel any responsibility to take care of him?
I had work. It was your job as a housewife to take care of him.
That makes no sense. I have work too, so that's unfair. Our argument heated up and was broken up by panicked relatives. Although the argument ended there, my husband and I didn't speak for the rest of the day. Later, after all the funeral-related matters were settled, a lawyer spoke about the inheritance.
I'd like to discuss the will concerning the inheritance following your father-in-law's death. It is written that the rights to the family home and the land will go to his son John, while the remaining money will be split evenly between his wife and his daughter-in-law Emily.
What? Why would Emily get a part of the inheritance? I'm his wife, right? If John gets the land and the house, shouldn't the rest of the assets all be mine?
Your husband expressed his gratitude to Emily, who dedicated herself to his care. It is his wish to leave her part of the inheritance as a token of that gratitude. This is a decision made by your husband, and it cannot be overturned.
So that's it. Oh, I see. Emily was only taking care of him because she was after the inheritance. Why would you say that? It must be. Why else would she dedicate herself to caregiving? I've had a good relationship with my father-in-law ever since we got married. I took care of him to repay his kindness. If you think it's impossible, why did you push the caregiving onto me, mother-in-law? How can you belittle me like that? Don't talk crap. I get it now, so keep your mouth shut. With our lawyer present, my mother-in-law couldn't say anything inappropriate, so she continued with a frustrated expression. So he decided that. Well, it's a token of appreciation for caregiving. I guess there's no other way. Then the lawyer continued with the discussion.
May I continue? Your father-in-law left a note saying that Emily no longer needs to take care of him.
At that moment, my mother-in-law's face, which had been bitter up to then, suddenly lit up with a smile. That's it! That's what it means. I understand now.
Huh? What do you mean?
Confused by his mother's excitement, my husband seemed completely at a loss. It means that Emily is no longer needed in this house, since she won't have to take care of my husband. The reason for dividing the inheritance was just severance pay, not gratitude. My mother-in-law twisted my father-in-law's will according to her own speculations. My mother-in-law misunderstood my father-in-law's will as my father-in-law and I had intended it to be misunderstood. Actually, there was a discussion between my father-in-law and me while he was still alive. My father-in-law wished to set me free from this house after his death. He planned to use his will to fool my husband and mother-in-law, allowing me to leave the house without any trouble. And just as my father-in-law intended, my mother-in-law, who was completely fooled, is trying to kick me out. While making sure they did not catch on to my true feelings, I pretended to be shocked by the will, saying, "Oh, Father, why would you do such a thing? See, even my husband didn't see you as his precious daughter-in-law. John, you don't need Emily anymore, do you? Just divorce her already." John, you wouldn't say something like divorce, right? I looked at John with tearful eyes. After a long pause,
Indeed, it seems better to divorce,
he finally said.
Me, I've received the family property and Mom has got the money. I don't need to worry about care in the future, and I won't have any trouble with Emily.
What? I see.
That's how it is. Sorry, but could you leave me?
Understood. I guess there's no place for me anymore here. I meekly said as I took a piece of paper from my drawer and handed it to my husband. When we had a fight before, there was one time I went to pick this up. That, of course, was the divorce papers. My husband immediately signed the divorce papers. Finally, I don't have to see your face. A freeloader who doesn't work. Get out, haha.
Appreciate that I put up with a parasite like you all this time.
I see. Okay, I'll leave. Thank you for everything so far. Speaking of which, since the lawyer is here, I want to discuss. It's okay if there's no property division, right? I've received enough from my father-in-law's inheritance.
That's right. How considerate of you, Emily. I've been able to live on my earnings. It would be brazen of you to want more.
Well, you're right. All right, the discussion is over. Please leave this house as soon as possible. I quickly packed my belongings and left the house where I had been living. My mother-in-law was watching me leave with a joyous face beyond words, not knowing what awaited in this house. After leaving the in-laws' house, I immediately submitted the divorce papers to the city hall. Arriving at the apartment I had rented in advance, I shouted in the wide room alone. Yes, I've finally been set free! I'm free! I just couldn't help but yell. I was so happy to be free from the painful married life. I can't thank my father-in-law enough, who planned the escape from that house. Since then, I've been enjoying a too comfortable life alone. I adapted to working remotely at my in-laws' place. But now that I left, I now have much more time to dedicate to my work. My income has increased due to that, and I'm able to live a luxurious life without being disturbed by anyone. One day, I got a call from my ex-husband, John. It's been a while. What brings you to call me?
Emily, please help us. We're having a tough time making ends meet.
Is this some kind of joke? Weren't you the ones who told me to get lost?
Even though we're getting the same salary as before, for some reason we don't have enough money. We can't live like this.
Oh dear, haha, that does sound tough. I decided to drop the final bombshell. Well, that's because my salary isn't going into the household anymore.
What do you mean?
Don't you understand? You couldn't afford your lifestyle just with your salary. All those splurging, and you never noticed?
I couldn't afford our lifestyle with my salary alone?
Of course not. You've always been squandering all your salary on yourself. The only reason we could get by was because of the money I was bringing in. You and your mother at your ages, your habit of spending is just ridiculous.
What? So how much were you making, Emily?
Let me see. Back then, it was around $4,800 a month, I guess.
You were making that much?
Yes, I was. Bet you didn't know that, did you? By the way, now that I don't have any hindrances, I'm making even more. Haha. Even over the phone, I could tell my ex-husband was shaken.
Emily, how about we live together again?
Huh?
It was a mistake to kick you out. It's not too late to start over, right?
What are you talking about? It's obvious you're just after my earnings.
No, that's not it. I've realized that I still love you, Emily.
Don't talk nonsense. I have no desire to return to your place. By the way, what happened to the inheritance your mother received? You should have plenty left from that, right?
Well, it's nearly run out.
There's no way! She got about $100,000, right? There's no way you could have spent all of it in such a short period of time.
We enjoyed shopping and overseas trips. Also, we lost nearly half of it in casinos.
Both of you are just hopeless. I'm speechless. I'm a stranger now. I can't do anything about it, and I don't want to.
But don't say such cold things. Help us.
I don't care. I'm ending this call. Don't call me again. With that, I hung up the phone and immediately canceled the contract of his phone. I have no idea what happened to my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law after losing all means of communication. However, when I passed by their house nearly a year after that phone call, the place had been demolished. They must have had to let go of the house due to financial troubles. Well, it's none of my business anyway. As for me, I decided to spend my newfound free time on a new hobby and started attending a wine class that I had been interested in. There, I met a man 2 years older than me who was actively pursuing me. After a year and a half of dating, we got married. He's a humble and warm-hearted man who is a rising star at a well-known company and earns a high salary. He respects my work, and we have a happy married life where we respect each other. Lately, I've been thinking that perhaps this reward was a gift from my father-in-law.
Eric is calling for you. Hurry up and come to the hospital. No, I don't want to. After all, that child is. I replied that way and looked at my son, who was studying. There's not a single reason for me to rush to the hospital for that child, who is truly someone else's. What are you saying? Just come quickly. But Alex is right in front of me, isn't he? What? Oh. With my words, it seemed that Tom finally realized who he was calling. Sorry, I thought you were Alex by mistake. Well, okay. Let's talk when you get back. About what to do next. Tom was speechless on the other end of the phone. Did he think he could keep it hidden for the past 4 years? I know everything. Jenny. Wait a minute. Ignoring Tom's plea, I hung up the phone. Well, shall we get started? I said, rolling up my sleeves and standing up. I'll make sure you regret this. My name is Jenny Parker. I'm a 49-year-old office worker. I love my job, and I've come to like it even more recently because of my promotion. If I hadn't reconnected with my husband at this company where I started as a new graduate, I probably wouldn't have been married today. My husband, Tom, was a senior in college. Though we didn't really interact much. It was just that he happened to be one of the people who came to help at the freshman camp I went to during orientation. So, for a while after joining the company, I didn't remember him at all and was completely absorbed in my work. Then, at the welcome party for new employees, Tom spoke to me. And I remembered him for the first time. Weren't you in the same group as me during the college orientation? Don't you remember? What? Sorry. It's okay. I thought you were a beautiful girl since then. That's how the conversation started. And from the next day, Tom began to wave at me whenever he saw me. Gradually, this turned into bringing snacks, then lunch, and then going out together. I will definitely make you happy. I want to date you with the intention of marriage. That was his proposal, about half a year after we started going out together. By that time, I had also fallen in love with Tom and happily accepted his proposal. That's how our relationship started. We dated for about 2 years, and after meeting each other's parents, we got married. It wasn't a passionate love, but it was a peaceful and happy time. This didn't change even after our son Alex was born, rather our happiness only increased. I truly thought I was lucky to have married Tom. However, around the time Alex entered middle school, Tom's attitude began to change gradually. His transfer to a different department led to increased overtime and working on holidays. My current department is busier than yours. Even though I hadn't said anything, Tom would make such excuses, and I started to feel suspicious. However, Tom's department was indeed known to be busy with a lot of overtime. There wouldn't be any time for affairs, I thought, and shelved my doubts. but Tom coming home late created one problem. It was about taking care of Alex and the household chores. Even though a middle schooler doesn't require much attention, I didn't want to give a child who was studying hard every day at cram school just sandwiches. Reluctantly, I decided to scale back on work until Alex entered university. However, when I discussed it with my boss, I was told that it was difficult to scale back due to a shortage of manpower. It might sound boastful, but I was competent at my job, working about twice as much as my colleagues. Therefore, if I were to step back now, it could potentially halt operations. My boss suggested introducing telework instead of reducing hours, and I was allowed to adopt a flex time system. So, I started working from home. When I told Tom about it, he responded with a smirk and something surprising. Then, you can take care of all the household chores. I'm busy, you know. I'm working too, you know. It's okay if the share of household chores increases a bit, but doing everything is too much. I retorted, but Tom didn't listen at all. True to his word, after I started teleworking, Tom began coming home even later. Every day, Tom would come home drunk late at night, and along with the smell of alcohol, I could smell perfume on him. He must be drinking with colleagues at nightclubs, I thought, and endured it. However, one day, I found lipstick on his shirt and confronted Tom. Hold on, there's lipstick on you. Whose is it? There was a woman sitting close to me at a drinking party. It must have gotten on me then. What, are you jealous? I was just fed up and listening. Who would be jealous? I cursed in my mind. Since then, even if I found lipstick on Tom's shirt, I started to ignore it. After living like this for 3 years, by the time Alex was in his 3rd year of high school, my love for Tom had completely faded, and we felt more like roommates. However, no matter how much my love faded, there were unforgivable things. It was about Alex's birthday. What? Where are you going? Just going out for a bit. No matter how busy, we always had a meal together as a family on Alex's birthday. That's why I had reserved a restaurant for this year as well. But Tom just went to the entrance alone in a hurry. Wait, today is Alex's birthday, you know? So what? It's just the day he was born, right? I was stunned by Tom's words. Tom used to value anniversaries so much. Even before we were married. He said he wanted to celebrate our children's birthdays no matter how old they got. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I'm serious. Oh, I see. Without looking at me, Tom quickly left. As soon as the door closed, tears started flowing. That's it, I'm getting a divorce. The words slipped out, but they were my true feelings. That day, Alex and I enjoyed a meal together, and then we stayed at my parents' house. I didn't contact Tom, but judging from the lack of phone calls or emails, he probably hadn't come back yet. A father who disregards his son's birthday and stays out without notice is better off not being around for Alex's sake. I made that decision and told my parents. They listened to my story and agreed. Since I had no intention of returning to Tom, the first step was to look for a new place. Fortunately, my income is above average. And with my department mainly working from home now, there's no inconvenience in working from my house. I looked for properties while working. Maybe it's a good idea to buy a house. While looking at a cozy little house, I felt my heart race for the first time in a while. Then one day, I decided to go see a property. Little did I know that this would accelerate the divorce proceedings with Tom. It's a nice place. And it's close to the station. The area I was looking at was near the university Alex wanted to attend. Since it takes an hour to commute from where we currently live, I thought it'd be better to live closer. Alex is working hard, studying to get into the university I attended. I didn't want to add unnecessary stress on him. We'll move after getting into the university. Thinking that, I stopped by a nearby shopping mall. Hey. Wait up. What? I instinctively hid when I heard Tom's voice. In front of me, Tom was waving at someone. When I shifted my gaze, I almost exclaimed out loud. Daddy. Hurry, hurry. Hurry up. A woman I recognized and a boy about 4 years old. There, running up to them and smiling gently, was Tom. It was clearly the picture of a happy family enjoying their weekend. I see. The period when Tom became cold and stopped coming home, and the boy's age matched up. That means the boy is Tom's child, and the woman is his mistress. I couldn't stop my dry laughter. The love was long gone, but somewhere, I must have still believed there was no affair. However, as Alex's mother, I couldn't afford to be shocked and stand still. I took a photo of the three and left the shopping mall. While on the train, I searched for a detective agency. Then, I visited an office near our house. I have someone I want you to investigate. One is my husband, Tom, and the other is. I gave the detective the names and the photo I had taken earlier. Then, I went home and did my usual housework. Mom, what's wrong? You look pale. What? Oh, I'm just a little tired. Don't push yourself. I can help too. What are you saying? You're a student. It's okay. I couldn't worry Alex. I spent my days smiling and acting bravely. This isn't just about divorce. I will definitely get revenge on them. I harbored a rage I had never felt before. Weeks later, the detective contacted me. The report was ready with all the information. I went to the detective's office and reviewed the documents. As expected, the boy I saw was Tom's child, and he had even acknowledged him. This was the worst. I was distraught. But looking at another set of documents the detective handed me, I felt a bit of hope. I would bring them down after Alex got into university. I made up my mind and took the documents home. Months passed, and I had the detective follow Tom and his mistress. It cost money, but that didn't matter. It would just add to the compensation during the divorce. Tom didn't seem to hide his affair, taking his mistress and child out everywhere. It turned out that the shopping mall visit was just by chance. And the mistress's house was just a few minutes' walk from our home. Moreover, the house was registered under Tom's name. To think he would house his mistress so close, it felt like he was mocking me and Alex. Unforgivable. I couldn't help but say it out loud. I will definitely make them kneel down in front of me and Alex. With that resolve, I started planning. The execution would be after Alex's acceptance announcement. With that as my goal, I began collecting evidence bit by bit. And finally, on the day of Alex's acceptance announcement, Alex was studying in the living room but also kept glancing at the computer. I watched over him nervously. It should be soon. My heart was pounding when the phone rang. I hurriedly pressed the call button. It was Tom on the other end. Eric is calling for you. Hurry up and come to the hospital. No, I don't want to. After all, that child is. I replied that way and looked at my son, who was studying. There's not a single reason for me to rush to the hospital for that child, who is truly someone else's. What are you saying? Just come quickly. But Alex is right in front of me, isn't he? What? Oh. With my words, it seemed that Tom finally realized who he was calling. Sorry, I thought you were Alex by mistake. Well, okay. Let's talk when you get back. About what to do next. Tom was speechless on the other end of the phone. Did he think he could keep it hidden for the past 4 years? I know everything. Jenny. Wait a minute. Ignoring Tom's plea, I hung up the phone. Well, shall we get started? I said, rolling up my sleeves and standing up. I'll make sure you regret this. Right after hanging up the phone from Tom, Alex turned to me with a smile. Mom. I did it. I passed. Really? That's amazing. Good for you. Alex and I celebrated together. Then, after a moment of joy, Alex suddenly became serious and spoke up. I'm old enough to not need a father anymore since I've got into university. So, you should divorce him. Alex, you knew.
Yeah,
I knew. I was shocked by Alex's words. Apparently, he had seen Tom and his mistress walking affectionately with a baby when coming back from school. At first, he thought they were just acquaintances, but after seeing them multiple times, he realized it was an affair. I kept quiet because I thought you'd be shocked. Alex. Thank you. I'm okay. I always thought of Alex as my cute little boy, but he had grown up admirably. I felt happy and a bit ashamed as a parent. At that moment, we heard the front door open. Tom had come back. I'm home. Tom entered the living room, visibly nervous, as Alex and I looked at him coldly. Tom's face turned pale at the entrance of the living room. Still, trying to act normal, Tom forced a smile and started talking to Alex. So, have you been studying properly? Which university are you going to? It seemed Tom had forgotten that Alex was already in his senior year of high school. Alex's gaze turned even colder. Noticing this, Tom suddenly got angry. What's with that look towards your father? Who do you think is providing for you? Just Mom, actually. Well, I contribute too. The scene was a flustered father and a calmly responding son. Clearly, Alex had the upper hand. Alex sighed and pointed to the computer. Today was the university acceptance announcement. Oh, you're at that age already. How did it go? Why should I tell you? What? Tom was taken aback by Alex's words, staring at him open-mouthed. Besides, why are you back? I'm going out to eat with Mom. You should go to your mistress and their kid. You knew. Tom seemed to have never thought he would get caught despite living so close. He just stood there, staring at Alex. Alex looked at him with disdain. Someone who doesn't cherish my mom isn't a father. From now on, I'll protect Mom, so you better just get a clean divorce. Alex. Tom, clearly advised to divorce by Alex, looked at me pleadingly. But there's no way I would help Tom. That's right. If you're only going to contribute to the college fees, there's absolutely no reason for us to stay married. Jenny too. Tom burst into tears like a tragic heroine. There's definitely no more unrelatable heroine than him. I thought this as I coldly looked down at Tom, who was kneeling and crying. Mom, I want Italian. Oh, that sounds nice. However, as we started discussing it, Tom suddenly lit up. I know a great Italian place. Let's go there to celebrate and make up. I couldn't understand why I would need to make up with a man who cheated. Looking at Alex, he seemed to feel the same way. Didn't you hear? It's just going to be Mom and me. Exactly. Plus, I wouldn't want to go to the Italian place you took them to. Tom was surprised, thinking nothing was known. I had learned from the detective where Tom and his group frequented. So, I knew exactly where that Italian place was and its name. Why should I have to settle for leftovers from your affair for my son's celebration? It's bad luck and I don't like it. At my words, Tom's face twisted in annoyance. Still, he had no intention of taking back what he said. Then, turning red with anger, Tom glared at me and started yelling. It's because of your attitude that he's cold towards me. You're the one who raised him wrong. Who do you think raised him? Tom pointed at Alex as he said this, but I just gave him an even colder look. That would be me, wouldn't it? Well, maybe a little, but I did too. To be precise, I've been covering the middle school fees, tutoring fees, and living expenses since he entered middle school. In fact, Tom stopped contributing to living expenses around the time Alex entered middle school. He used to give money when asked several times, but then he stopped altogether. At first, I would greet him when we saw each other. But after several months of him not contributing, I stopped mentioning it altogether by the end of the year. If you want to talk about raising and contributing money, then please pay all the backdated living expenses and school fees you've missed. I don't have that kind of money. Well, you seem to be living quite luxuriously. I took an envelope from the drawer and handed it to Tom. Inside was Tom's bank transaction history. In fact, keeping the bank book updated was my responsibility since we got married. I didn't do it monthly, but I had been doing it quite frequently lately. Therefore, I was fully aware of Tom's financial movements. You've been spending a large part of your salary every month. And you have debts, don't you? I have no intention of bearing that burden. But spouses are supposed to help each other out, right? That's why we're getting a divorce. Adding, "What are you talking about?" drained the color from Tom's face. Alex and I escorted Tom out the door and locked it behind him. Well then,
Goodbye.
wait. I can't get back in the house. I avoided the clinging Tom and got into the car. Then, Alex, smiling brightly, approached Tom. You're in the way of the car, move. How can you say such things to your father? That's because I don't have a father. Hey. With a smile, Alex said,
Goodbye.
and got into the car. Ignoring the stunned Tom, I started the car and headed to the Italian restaurant. Days passed, and Tom didn't show up. There was a lot to do with the divorce proceedings and property division. But work was my priority for now. That's what I was thinking when I sat down at the computer. Excuse me. Without ringing the bell, a high-pitched voice came from the courtyard. Hello. I know you're there. Come out, please. I stood up from my seat, already knowing who the visitor was. Please don't raise your voice. It's a nuisance to the neighbors. Well, if Jenny had come out sooner, I wouldn't have had to. The woman speaking so unabashedly was Lucy, someone I trained during new hire orientation, and Tom's mistress. She was supposed to be at work today. What about your job? I took a day off today. I couldn't talk to Jenny though. Twirling her hair around her finger, Lucy had a triumphant look on her face. I'll be taking Tom from you. You don't deserve him. Besides, I'm pregnant with our second child. Making her own sound effects, Lucy rubbed her stomach. I just held my head in my hands. You're completely unaware of Tom's financial situation, aren't you? What? Lucy looked puzzled. I showed her Tom's bank book that I had shown Tom earlier. Lucy looked through it and then burst out laughing. Stop joking, Jenny. I know he's saved up a lot more. What do you mean? When I asked, clueless, Lucy continued to giggle and then dropped a bombshell. Tom said after the divorce, he'd give the house to Lucy. And I'd get a lot from the property division. So that's what it was. I understood now. But Tom had forgotten something crucial. I laid out the truth to Lucy. Unfortunately, this house is in my name. Plus, since he hasn't contributed to living expenses, and there's the affair, the divorce will be due to his fault. No property division, and he'll owe compensation. What? Lucy froze, unable to comprehend, and then started muttering quietly. I explained further for clarity. This place was originally my family home that we renovated. So, Tom has no rights here. And with the compensation and the debt from your relationship, There won't be much left for Tom. That's a lie. A lie? Lucy exclaimed and then called someone. As soon as the person picked up, she began yelling into the phone. Hey. This isn't what we agreed on. You said everything would go to Lucy, right? What? Now. I'm at Jenny's. Sorry, can I talk to them for a second? Hey, wait a minute. Realizing the conversation was going nowhere, I snatched the phone from Lucy. It was Tom on the other end. I spoke into the phone with a cold voice. How much more trouble do you plan to cause? Jenny. This isn't what it looks like. That's enough. A second child, you say? You've been busy, haven't you? A second child. It seemed Tom was unaware of the pregnancy. He raised his voice in surprise, and then quickly said he would come over before hanging up. Lucy was thrilled to hear Tom was coming. Tom's coming. Great. He said we couldn't see each other for a while. Eric misses him too. I really want him to come back home. Where's Eric now? He's at daycare today. Lucy seemed puzzled why I would ask about the child, appearing a bit annoyed. I heard he fell from the balcony? It was just a fracture. You left a 4-year-old alone? Got a problem with that? Lucy answered me with a suspicious look. Then she cheerfully opened her mouth. Look. How long are you going to leave a pregnant woman outside? Please serve some tea in the living room. I complied with her brazen request. Just as I was making coffee, Tom entered the room. Lucy. Tom. I'm in the middle of negotiations here. I'll make sure to get the house, so wait for me. That's supposed to be my. You're late, Tom. While occasionally glancing at me, Lucy leaned on Tom and wrapped her arms around him. She might be trying to show off, but I wasn't envious at all. I'm sorry, but I won't be giving up the house. But if I move out, this house will be too big for you, right? In what world does someone hand over their house, which is in their name and essentially their family home, to their husband and his mistress? At my words, Tom looked visibly uncomfortable. Lucy quickly interjected. With Eric, me, Tom, and the baby, our current house is too small. It's just you and your son at your place, right? Please give it to us. She was pushy during training, but this was on another level. Frustrated, I laid out several photos in front of them. Seeing them, Lucy's face turned pale. Were you following me? Of course. You're my husband's mistress, after all. But these photos. Lucy frantically tried to gather the photos, but it was too late. Tom held one and confronted Lucy with a red face. What is this? That's just a friend. You go arm in arm with a male friend to the maternity clinic. Well, the photo showed Lucy smiling as she walked arm in arm with a young man out of a maternity clinic. They looked like a couple or spouses, which couldn't be explained away as just friends. I decided to kindly inform them. That man is a bartender, and you're a client, right? How did you know? And you've been seen entering a hotel together several times. So, that second child is? Before I could finish, Tom stood up. I turned my gaze to Tom. You've been that easy. Is Eric even my child? It's over. I'll divorce you. What do you mean? What about the money? It's not my child. I won't give you anything. As they started arguing, I smiled at them. Then, for some reason, Tom gave me a sickly smile. This was all a mistake. Since it's not my child, it's over between us. So, we can start over, right? What do you mean? Shut up. Get out. As Tom selfishly demanded, Lucy resisted, her face turning red. Amidst this, I spoke up calmly. Impossible. I never want to see your face again. Don't say that. I physically can't. Just looking at you makes me sick. Tom froze, shocked by my words. Then, I turned to my computer, which was still on the table, and smiled at them. Here are people willing to testify about your affair. Mom. Lucy also exclaimed, Mom, at the same time. In fact, I had already been on the phone with them, discussing what to do next. Lucy had barged in while I was planning to work and talk. Why is Mom? I've heard everything. Despite having someone like Jenny Parker, it's disgraceful. Do not cross our threshold ever again. But after being firmly declared cut off, Tom, perhaps lacking the energy to argue for reconciliation, staggered out of the room. Mom? There's a little reason for this. I did not raise someone to destroy another's family. You're going to your uncle's from tomorrow. What? No. Lucy's uncle's house is a dairy farm where there is no rest. And because of the intense male chauvinism, women are not allowed to rest and are almost always standing, except when sleeping. It seems harsh to send her there, but part of me feels it serves her right. Lucy ended up crying on the spot, and her mother had to come pick her up. Once everyone had left and silence returned, it was already evening, and I sighed in relief. Thanks to flex time, I can still make up for it, but I'm prepared for a late night at work. I'm home. Welcome back. Hey, want some pasta? Sounds good. Where shall we go? Watching Alex start looking for a restaurant as soon as he got back, I realized everything had finally come to an end. Later, Tom and I divorced through a lawyer. It seems Tom has also broken up with Lucy. Tom's parents apologized profusely, making me feel somewhat guilty. I said I wanted to continue our relationship because they had been very helpful. And they were overjoyed, crying. Tom paid me compensation for the affair and half of the college expenses. He seems to have taken on more debt recently, and no one has seen him. I've already received everything in one lump sum. So whatever happens to him now is none of my concern. It may sound cold, but that's genuinely how I feel. Lucy was forcibly taken to her uncle's by her mother's orders. She's woken up before dawn every day to help with work. It seems her uncle is keeping an eye on the compensation being paid monthly. By the way, I resigned from the company soon after. It seems she wasn't very good at her job, and many were happy to see her go. For me, the decrease in errors in the documents coming from Tom's department has seemingly improved work efficiency. Her children are being raised by her parents, and apparently, both are that bartender's children. The older child's injury wasn't too bad, and a month after getting hurt, he was out of his cast and running around. Hearing that was a relief. Tom was essentially a cash cow, and I heard he was quickly abandoned once the money was gone. Alex successfully entered his first-choice university. He's studying late every day with orientation and classes. He's planning to start a part-time job once he gets used to it to help support our family, which almost brought me to tears with his kindness. As for me, I'm still working hard. Recently, a project I proposed was approved, and as its leader, my days are busy but enjoyable. Also, a much younger man from the project's client side has been vigorously pursuing me, waiting for my divorce. I told him I have a college-aged son and am not ready to remarry yet. But he said he'd wait until I'm ready, and we've been dining out together recently. Spending time with him feels very comfortable, and we share similar tastes in food. I can't deny that my heart is a bit shaken. Alex even said it might be good to consider remarrying him. So I'm thinking about it more seriously these days. Mom. We're going to be late.
Oh no.
We have to hurry. Today, Alex and I have a reservation at a restaurant. It's a gift from my mother-in-law to celebrate his admission. Mom, I'm looking forward to it. Me too. We laughed and got into the car. I hope this happiness lasts a long time. With that thought, I started the car and headed to the restaurant.